Ethan Carter stod in the doorway of their bedroom. The morning light catching the edge of Clara Bennett's suitcase as she zipped it closed with practice precision. The faint hum of the city outside their window was interrupted only by the click of the zip, the rustle of fabric, and the distant sound of a dog barking somewhere down the street. For weeks, Clara had been talking about the Central Tech Summit, a conference that surpassed the promise of career advancement and recognition she craved there. She moved efficiently, yet something about her movements, the way she radiated Hans Gazi, set over a court alarm deep in each chest. "I miss you," she said, brushing her lips against the cheek toward meeting which she says. Her words were warm, but the hesitation beneath her made yet Hans stomach tighten. "Drive safe," he replied, vouching the smell that felt like a mesca. Beneath it, a nagging canis had been growing for months. The late nights at the office, the fatigued on phone, the sudden presence of lingerie he had never seen before, all of it had been accumulating tension, a quiet signal that something had shifted. But Ethan had pushed this respiration aside, clinging to the lie they had built to get. As her car disappeared down the street, a strong stillness fell over the apartment. Ethan remained in the doorway, which as his feet hit on the empty space, the faint echo of her heels on the staircase fading into memory. The unease he had been suppressing surged forward, demanding acknowledgement. He found himself at Clara's desk before he realized mood, hands hovering over the laptop she had left open. There was no malice yet, just an almost scientific curiosity and to confirm or dispel the gnawing fear. Her email book was still logged in, waiting like an unspoken invitation. Yet Hans' fingers trembled as he scrolled through messages, each one a potential to understanding the truth. The first few emails were modern, professional, the kind one might expect from a colleague. But as he dealt with the deep, which his heart began to sink. A thread labeled, "Julia, caught HSA." At first, it seemed innocent, coffee plants, short conference note days, casual compliments. But the tone quickly shifted more intimate, more secretive. Weeks became months. Casual exchanges became confessions of longing, declarations of a love Ethan had never been part of. One email stopped him cold. Dated 6 months ago. The subject line read, "Counting down to our victory." He clicked, reading forwards as if the letters themselves were knives. "One more week playing house with Ethan. Then we have 7 days just for us. I can't wait to wake up next to you every morning too." Which his chest tightened so severely it was hard to breathe. The morning, the quiet apartment, the soft glow sunlight, they all felt like remnants of a lie that no longer existed. Julian Moore, a colleague from another branch, had become the person she truly wanted to be with. And Ethan, he realized with a piercing clarity, had been a placeholder, a convenient stability while she pursued something else. Every logical part of him screamed to shoot the laptop, to turn Rui, to pretend he hadn't seen anything. But the cold, crystalline clarity that followed the initial shock anchored him. This wasn't a mistake. Clara had chosen deception over honesty, romance with Julian over respect for their marriage. The decision had already been made, and she hadn't even bothered to tell him. Ethan set the laptop aside, which is mind-moving with a strong, quiet precision. The pain, he knew, would come later. Right now, there was only clarity and the growing understanding that each's life had shifted irreversibly. He picked up each's phone and dialed Daniel Harper, the divorce attorney each's brother had recommended years ago. The familiar echo of Daniel's voice on the other end was a small relief in the storm raging inside him. "I need an emergency consultation," Ethan said quietly, keeping each's tone steady despite the churn of betrayal inside. "I have 7 days to prepare, and I intend to use every single one of them to. By Tuesday morning, the wheels were in motion. Daniel had been extremely efficient, compassionate, and discreet. In the state, you don't need her permission to protect yourself financially, Daniel explained. "Let's make sure you're secure first." Ethan had opened a new bank account that evening, transferring his their shared savings into a place only he could access. Screenshots documented everything. Emails, the California beachfront reservation, credit card statements for dinners and gifts Ethan had never received there. Each photo, each screenshot, was a fragment of truth he had never wanted but now needed. On Wednesday, he took a personal day from work. While Clara was probably loading in BUI pool somewhere with Julian, he met with their financial advisor, removing her name from retirement accounts, ensuring she could not access their investments. The apartment, once a place of shared life, felt defensively in its quiet. He expected anger, maybe the urge to destroy four belongings. But instead, he felt something he had not anticipated. Purpose. Ethan packed Clara's clothes meticulously, neatly by him realized that was already over. Her jewelry, books, and collection of vintage records were catalogued and labeled, destined for the storage unit he had rented under her name. This act was not revenge, it was closure, physical and tangible, a methodical acknowledgement that what they had once shared was no longer real. Thursday brought the hardest conversations. He caught Uchi's mother first, her voice trembling on the other end of the line. Ethan, honey, you sound strong. What's wrong? He told her everything, voice steady despite the pain of speaking to what he had only seen in text and email until now. Her sobs filled the room, a sheer grief for a love that had already ended. Then came Clara's parents. Her father, Martin Bennett, had always treated Ethan like a son. The conversation was brutal, a confrontation with disappointment and disbelief. I'm sorry you're learning this from me, Ethan said, but you deserve it before she comes home to a very different situation too. BUI Friday, the apartment had become a museum of their marriage. The wedding ring was placed in an envelope with a simple note. Locks had been changed there. Legal consultations were complete. When Elias' best friend Liam Foster arrived with pizza and beer, the conversation was quiet but confirming. You're sure about this? Liam asked, skeptical. Not since I want to hear her out. Ethan replied, I'm doing this from clarity, not anger. She ended our marriage when she got on that plane with him. I'm just making it official. Saturday morning arrived there with unusual clarity. Ethan woke early, alone, the apartment silent. The kitchen smelled of freshly brewed coffee. He drank slowly, reflecting on the past week, realizing the arithmetic of which his life was changing, the ground beneath him rearranging. That afternoon, Ethan brought Ethan arrived from Portland to help with the final steps, moving boxes into the storage unit, ensuring every logistical detail was complete. You two seemed solid, Ethan said quietly as they worked. We sent a lot of things that you ain't true, Ethan replied, carrying a box labeled books. Clara. The physical labor was strangely therapeutic, each box a symbolic shading of a shared past. That evening, Ethan sat alone on the couch, watching the city lights flicker beyond the window. The knowledge of betrayal he crystallized into understanding, and while the ache was still there, a new sensation he begun. Control. Purpose. A path forward. Sunday. He drove to the Castellon, walking along the same beach where he and Clara had gotten engaged 3 years prior. The waves stretched endlessly, a mirror to the turbulence inside him. He had loved her completely, built a life around shared dreams, only to discover they were illusions. And yet, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, he felt a subtle shift in its recognition that this ending, this brutal clarity, could also be a beginning. Returning home, Ethan prepared for Monday, when Clara would return, unaware of the changes he had enacted. Her new apartment keys were on the counter, storage unit information ready. Drawer's papers rated their filling. Every detail meticulously planned, every boundary carefully set. The pain of betrayal had been converted into deliberate, measured action a final, silent acknowledgement that the lie they had shared was no longer ideas to preserve. Yet Hans' hands hovered over the kitchen table, smoothing out the envelope containing each's wedding ring. The note inside was simple. The marriage is over. Your belongings are in storage. Please collect them at your earliest convenience. He didn't feel triumph or satisfaction, only the steady certainty that clarity, not chance, he guided him through this week of revelation. And as Monday afternoon approached, he waited. Tuesday morning arrived there with a quiet sense of inevitability. Ethan Carter sat at Ichi's kitchen table, a mug of coffee cooling in Ichi's hands, the sunlight slanting across the countertop like a spotlight on a stage. Each corner of the apartment seemed to pulse with memory. Clara's favorite mug perched behind the sink, the faint scent of her perfume lingering on the sofa cushions, the olive pots his suitcase leaning against the bedroom wall. Yet, None of it held him captive anymore. She felt a strong clarity, a sharp-edged cutting through the fog of shock, fear, and betrayal that he dominated the past into 4 hours. He pulled out his phone again, scrolling through the emails he had documented the night before. Julia Mari's name leaped over the screen repeatedly. A constant reminder that the lie he had believed in, the love he had given, was a carefully constructed illusion. Yet Hans' hands didn't shake anymore. Instead, they moved with quiet purpose. Each screen capture, each bank statement, each researching confirmation was a piece of evidence, a tangible testament to the truth he now had to navigate. The first call of the morning went to Daniel Harper, the attorney who had guided him through the preliminary steps. Daniel's voice, command measured, was almost comforting amidst the storm. Ethan, in the state, you don't need your permission to protect yourself financially. Daniel reminded him. Let's make sure you're secure first. You're doing everything right. Ethan nodded, even though Daniel couldn't see him. If you already opened their account, transferred half of our savings. Screenshots of the emails, hotel reservations, credit card statements, everything is documented too. His words were steady, but there was a quiet tremor beneath them. The act of cataloging betrayal was not painless, yet it was necessary. Pain had become a tool, a lens through which he could focus his next steps. By midi, Ethan had arranged a meeting with their financial advisor. Clara would never see it coming. While she might be lying pool-seated in California, grinning at Julian's jokes, Ethan was dismantling the financial foundation they had built together carefully, legally, and efficiently. Retirement accounts were structured, assets secured, credit lines were signed. Every move was deliberate. Every decision was a reclamation of his life. Sitting in the adversary's office, Ethan reflected on the surreal juxtaposition of their realities. Clara's life ended as he diverged 6 months ago, though he had remained blissfully onward. She had been orchestrating a parallel existence while he continued to invest in what he believed was mutual. The betrayal caught sharply, but it also haunted his focus. The act of preparation became ritualistic. Documents were organized, boxes labeled, legal language reviewed, contexts lined up. Each brought a strong sense of empowerment. Ethan recognized that clarity had a weight, a responsibility. Pain alone was passive. Action, even measured and restrained, was patent. That evening, he returned home to the apartment. It felt different, quiet, methodical, almost secret. He opened Clara's suitcase, now all of parts from the morning's inherited impetus, and began reorganizing it with meticulous care. Each item was sorted together, and placed in boxes he had rented space for in a storage unit under her name. Jewelry carefully wrapped, books cataloged, vintage records stacked with protective layers of tissue. It was an act of precision, a ceremony of close, even before she returned. The apartment transformed under his hands. What had once been a shared space of comfort became a controlled environment, reflecting not grief but intent. Ethan realized that the act of preparation was not about vengeance, it was about safeguarding the remnants of each's life, ensuring that betrayal could not reach beyond its consequences. Late that evening, he called to his mother. She had been distraught when he told her what he discovered, but Ethan felt the need to update her on the concrete steps he was taking. Her concern was maternal, protective, but she could sense her pride hidden beneath her worry. She was relieved he was taking control, taking action rather than succumbing to despair. Next, he contacted his brother Nathan. Together, they mapped out the logistical challenges of the upcoming days. Nathan's voice, practical and steady, offered both strategy and comfort. You're doing everything right, Ethan. I know it hurts, but this is the way forward. Every decision you make now is about your future, not driving it. Yet Hans' mind circled constantly, balancing emotion with reason. He considered confronting Clara immediately, but Daniel Harper had advised caution. Timing was critical. Evidence must be preserved there. The legal framework must be established. The confrontation would come, but on Ethan's terms, within the boundaries he had defined. That night, Ethan drafted a mental timeline, aligning actions, legal requirements, and emotional considerations. Monday, the day Clara would return, had to be precise. Every document, every envelope, every canned piece of information had to be ready. Fair to plan was fair to protect. He moved through the apartment with a surgical calm. The living room sofa, where they had shared evenings reading and talking about future plans, was cleared of personal effects. The kitchen, once a space of shared meals and laughter, was meticulously organized. The apartment became a controlled environment, reflecting the shift Ethan had undergone a transition from victim to architect of his own fate. Each night, he sat alone in the quiet of the apartment, reviewing each steps, replaying the emails in each mind, considering potential reactions from Clara. But he never wavered from its course. Joan Moore was a ghost in the scale course, irrelevant to the measures Ethan was taking. The airfare was a effect, but it was Clara's choices, not Julian's, that had necessitated these actions. The week unfolded like a carefully choreographed sequence. Tuesday, financial consolidation. Wednesday, legal consultations and documentation. Thursday, family notifications, ensuring everyone relevant was informed. Friday, physical preparation, packing, securing belongings. Saturday and Sunday, mental preparation, reflection, and strategic planning for Clara's return. Through it all, Ethan observed a strong clarity within himself. Anger, though present, was secondary to purpose. Pain was certainly the but harnessed. Each decision reinforced each's control. Each action carried a path forward that did not depend on Clara's whims or deceptions. BY Sunday evening, as the sun set over the city, yet Hans' preparation was complete. All logistical, financial, and emotional contingencies had been addressed. The apartment was orderly, the storage unit ready, the journey prepared, and family and friends informed. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, Ethan allowed himself to feel a quiet satisfaction not of triumph over Clara, but of reclamation of each's life and agency. The week of revelation had begun in shock and disbelief, but now it ended in deliberate action. He had transformed chaos into strategy, grief into clarity, and betrayal into empowerment. Monday, when Clara returned, would mark a confrontation, but it would be on Ethan's terms, measured, controlled, and final. Sitting alone in the quiet apartment, he sipped the last of each's cooling coffee and allowed himself a brief, introspective smile. The storm of betrayal had not broken him. It had reshaped him. And as the city lights flickered on outside, he felt something he hadn't expected, a quiet, unwavering sense of purpose. By Thursday morning, Ethan Carter had settled into a ritual teaching that felt almost unnatural in its precision. The apartment, once alive with shared routines and laughter, had become a stage for methodical action. Boxes lined the living room walls, labeled with meticulous care: Clara jewelry, Clara books, Clara clothing, each item carefully wrapped or folded. The storage unit he had rented in her name had been inspected and prepared, a quiet testament to the life they once shared now being catalogued and archived. Ethan moved through the apartment like a man possessed not by anger, not by grief, but by purpose. Each motion, each decision was deliberate. He packed her clothes, carefully folding each item, smoothing out wrinkles, preserving a respect for the life they had built even as he dismantled it. He handled her jewelry with precision, clutching necklaces and rings into small labelled pouches. Her collection of books, many with marginal notes and personal inscriptions, were stacked neatly in boxes cushioned with tissue paper. For the first time in days, Ethan allowed himself to feel the weight of the week, but he didn't dwell. Instead, he picked up the phone and called his mother, a conversation that had been postponed while he sorted through the immediate chaos. Ethan, honey, are you okay? Her voice trembled with concern. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. I'm managing, Mom. I wanted to let you know exactly what's happening. Clara has been unfaithful, and I'm taking steps to protect myself and our finances. There was silence on the other end, punctuated only by the quiet hum of the line. Then came the sound of tears, soft and fragile. I can't believe it, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I wish there was something I could do. You're doing plenty, he said swiftly. Just be ready to support me over the next few days. That's all I need to it. Next, he reached out to Clara's parents. Martin Bennett answered on the first ring, which is ton cautious, weary. Ethan, what is this about? I wanted you to hear this from me, Ethan said evenly. Clara has been having an affair for 4 months. I thought you should not be before she returns home to. Martin's voice broke. We raised her better than this. I know, Ethan replied quietly. I just wanted you to have the truth. That's all. Everything else is already being handled. The calls were exhausting, both emotionally and mentally. Each conversation reopened wounds, forced him to articulate a betrayal that still ate in his chest. But with each call, he felt a strong sense of resolution. The truth was no longer confined to his mind. He was assured, acknowledged, and to BY tos who mattered. BY Friday, the apartment had taken on a musumlike quality. Every detail of the dismantled life he had shared with Clara was catalogued, organized, and prepared for her eventual return. Ethan had removed his wedding ring from his finger, plunging it into an envelope with a simple note inside. The marriage is over. Your belongings are installed. Please collect them at your earliest convenience. He changed the locks, ensuring that she could not re-enter without acknowledgement of the changes he had made. Nathan, H.S. Brother, arrived Friday afternoon from Portland to help with the heavy tasks, moving boxes into the storage unit, organizing her belongings, and covering a staging presence in the emotional storm. I still can't believe you would do this, Nathan said, shaking his head as they lifted boxes into the moving van. You two seemed solid. We seemed a lot of things that you ain't true, Ethan replied, setting a box carefully inside the unit. He wiped his palms on his jeans, taking a moment to steady himself. The physical labor was therapeutic, an outlet for frustration and grief that had been simmering since Tuesday morning. The silence that settled between them was heavy, but not oppressive. Each box moved, each step taken, was a tangible act of reclamation. The apartment, the life they had shared, was being redefined not by Clara, not by betrayal, but by Ethan's hints and his decisions. During a brief pause, Ethan's voice afternet. You know what the worst part is? He asked. Nathan glanced at him. Weary. What? I keep wondering, when did it stop being real for her? 6 months ago. A year. Or was I just convenient, the stable guy, why she figured out who she really wanted to be with? Nathan's face hardened. Don't do that to yourself. You can't make sense of someone else's choices. Ethan nodded, absorbing the truth in each brother's words. And yet, the questions lingered, like shadows at the edge of his mind. Saturday brought the final stages of preparation. Ethan had rented a near-bedroom apartment across town for Clara, first and last month's rent paid. The keys placed carefully on the kitchen counter. The drawer's paperwork was finalized, ready to be filed Monday morning. The storage unit was complete. The envelope with H.S. wedding ring was positioned strategically, awaiting her inevitable discovery. Every detail had been considered, every contingency planned. Despite the meticulous planning, Ethan allowed himself moments of reflection. Walking through the apartment alone, he paused in the living room where they had watched movies together, tracing with his fingers across the armrest of the sofa. The memories were sharp. Visual he remembered thoroughly, the way she leaned against him while they read late at night, the shared jokes and quiet conversations. And yet, he did not succumb to longing or despair. The memories existed, but they no longer dictated each his actions. That evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Ethan sat on the balcony with a mug of coffee, watching the city lights blink to life. He thought about the week, how quickly it had passed, how much it changed there. Betrayal had forced him into action, yes, but it had also shown him a part of himself he had never fully realized, the capacity for common chance, for deliberate planning in the ways of heartbreak. Liam, BJ's best friend, called that night to check in. Everything okay, Ethan? He asked. Managing, Ethan replied. It's surreal, but I feel in control. That's what matters right now too. Good, Liam said, with his tone approving. You were always been level, he added, but this is impressive. Most people would have lost it by now. Ethan allowed himself a faint smile. He realized something. Anger is useless. Pain is inevitable. But purpose changes everything. Sunday, Ethan drove alone to the cast. Ook in the beach where he and Clara had gotten ingagit 3 years prior. They went to get it which is here. The waves lapping rhythmically at the sand. A quiet metronome for revolution. He remembered the way she had smiled that day, the way they had talked about a life built together, dreams and plans whispered under a golden sky. That future had been an illusion, a carefully constructed marriage now shattered by her choices. Yet, as he watched the horizon, Ethan felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Not relief, not joy, but a tentative sense of hope. The betrayal had been brutal, but he had transformed it into clarity. He had reclaimed control over Richie's life, secured Richie's finances, informed family and friends, and prepared the environment for the confrontations that would inevitably come. By the time he returned to the apartment Sunday evening, every logistical, emotional, and legal detail had been addressed. Monday would mark Clara's return. She would encounter a reality she had never anticipated. And Ethan, standing amid the organized remnants of a shared life, felt a quiet power, the kind that comes not from vengeance, but from mastery over his own destiny. He reviewed the final checklist: storage unit secure, apartment orderly, keys and documents ready, wedding ring in envelope, driver's paper signed and ready. Every detail had been accounted for, every move executed with precision. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, Ethan allowed himself a deep, steady breath. The week had begun in chase and shock. It would end with clarity, with order, with purpose. And when Clara returned, she would find that the man she deceived was no longer a participant in her game. He had stepped outside of it, standing firm, ready to reclaim each's life in its entirety. Monday afternoon arrived with a quiet intensity that Ethan Carter had been anticipating all week. The apartment was pristine. Every box in the storage unit accounted for, every document carefully arranged on the kitchen counter. The envelope containing H's wedding ring rested next to the driver's papers. The keys to Clara's new apartment sat neatly beside Aram. Every detail had been addressed, every contingency planned. From the living room window, Ethan watched the street below. The light slanted across the pavement in long, golden streaks. She could see the familiar home of city light continuing unreverted, indifferent to the upheaval that was about to unfold within Ilia's apartment. And 10, at exactly 4:17 дня, a car turned the corner-racing black sedan and pulled into the driveway. Clara, she stepped out, her suitcase in tow, her posterior head, her face glowing with a kind of contentment some morning suits after a vacation. She smiled as she approached the front door, unaware of the changes awaiting her. Yet her chest tightened briefly at the side, a familiar pang, but it was immediately replaced by a unwavering resolve. This moment, he knew, would belong entirely to him. Clara fumbled with her. One turn, two turns. Nothing. She glanced up, perplexed, a flicker of unease crossing her face. Tension knocked, firm, yet hesitant. Ethan opened the door, but he did not step aside. Its stance was measured, calm, and deliberate, as though the very air he taken with the weight of what he knew. My wife doesn't work, Clara said, her voice light, carefully controlled. Did something happen? Her smile was practiced perfectly compass, but her eyes betrayed a hint of confusion. Yes, Ethan said quietly. Something happened. EJ's voice was steady, even, but carried an unyielding gravity. I know where you've been, Clara. I know about Julian. I know everything. The color drained from her face. Her hand faltered on the suitcase handle. What are you talking about? She asked, a tremor of fear creeping into her voice. Please don't, Ethan said evenly. I'm not interested in lies anymore. Your emails were thorough. The reservation was easy to find. You spent a week in California with your lover while I was preparing to end our marriage too. Clara says we don't in shock. She treating her first, her tone rising. You went through my private emails. That's a violation of a word. Our marriage vows. Yet Hans lips curved with a slightly not a smile, but a grim acknowledgement of irony. You spent 6 months violating every vow, every promise, every trust we shared. You chose a deception over aniste. Violation. For a moment, Clara looked astonished at speaker again, but the weight of Yethan's concertante hield horrid bay. He stepped slightly aside, gesturing to the kitchen counter. Everything you need is here, he continued. Your new apartment keys, storage you need information, financial separation documents, and the divorce papers. This isn't about revenge. It's about finality too. Clara's composure cricket. Her voice trembled. Did I mean, Ethan, please, can't we just talk? No, he said, it's your deliberate, firm. There is nothing left to discuss. You made your choices long before this week. I'm simply making them official. She looked round the apartment. Her is taking in the changes the empty spaces where her belongings had once rested, the organized boxes, the envelope with the ring, the sterile clarity of the environment. Panic flickered across her face. You're just trying through 3 years of marriage, she exclaimed, tears welling in her eyes. You can just do this. You did. Ethan replied swiftly, which his voice steady, unwavering. The marriage ended the moment you boarded the plane with him. I'm simply acknowledging reality. Clara sank against the door frame, tears streaming freely now. It's over with Julian. I realized this week. I love you. I was coming home to entity with him too. Yet Hans' expression remained calm. He pulled out his phone, showing her the latest email from June, to me stampede just that morning. Already missing you, beautiful. Can't wait until we can stop hiding and build our life together. Her face crumpled, disbelief and shame mingling with tears. It's complicated, she whispered. No, Ethan said firmly. It's not complicated. You made hundreds of choices to better our marriage. Not one mistake, not one lapse, hundreds of deliberate decisions. That's not something you fix with conversation. That's a lie you ended through a deception too. Clara's tears were real now, unguarded, raw, but Ethan remained resolute. He handed her the envelope containing the divorce papers, sliding a tear across the counter with a precision that mirrored the preparation. Divorce papers are being filed tomorrow, he said quietly. You'll be served to work on Tuesday. Everything you need is here. This is not a negotiation. If be entire, precise, and fair. Clara's voice rose in desperation. What about our families? Friends? What will people think? They know the truth. Ethan replied simply. Your parents know. And my family knows. If be honest with everyone who matters. You chose this pet, Clara. You're lonely. A long silence fell between them, punctuated only by the faint ticking of the wall clock. Clara sank to the floor, suitcase beside her, her face buried in her hands. The realization had settled fully this was not a fight she could win with tears or promises. Yet Hans Kamautrati had rendered all arguments moot. Finally, Ethan stepped back from the door. You have 10 minutes to collect what you need from the kitchen. After that, I need you to leave too. Clara lifted her head slowly, meeting Oiche's gaze. For the first time, she saw the truth in Oiche's eyes. Not anger, not vengeance, but absolute certainty. This was a man who had been betrayed yet remained in control, who had felt the pain but refused to be defined by it. Her lips trembled. Ethan, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything, he replied. The marriage is over. Your belongings are in storage. Your apartment keys are on the counter. The divorce papers are ready. I've done everything I can to make this transition as orderly as possible. Your choices created this reality. I'm simply living within it. Clara rose slowly, moving towards the counter to retrieve her belongings. Each item she touched reminded her of what she had lost, not just a home, not just possessions, but the trust and integrity of a man who had loved her care completely. She realized, perhaps for the first time, that her actions had consequences. Their deception could not escape accountability. Ethan watched her quietly, neither gloating nor angry. He simply observed a steady presence, the embodiment of control and clarity. When she finally got to the last of her things and stepped towards the door, he closed it behind her with a soft but deliberate click. The apartment was silent again, a sanctuary reclaimed, a life reasserted. Ethan sank into the living room sofa, Taking Keisla, Gibret. The confrontation was over. The truth fully acknowledged. The past irreversibly behind him. For the first time in days, he allowed himself to feel the weight of the week leave slightly. Replace BYA acquired unshakable sense of resolution. The storm had passed. The clarity remained. 3 weeks had passed since Clara Bennett had walked out of Ethan Charter's life, leaving behind a trail of broken trust, empty closets, and a week of meticulous preparation that had shifted the very eyes of ideas world. The apartment, once a home of shared routines and laughter, now felt distinctly witchiest. The boxes and storage were reminders of a chapter closed, not words tethering him to the past. The city beyond the windows moved with the same indifferent urge to teach him, yet Ethan felt a quiet alignment with it now grounded, centered, and ready to face the future. He sat in the backyard of Liam Foster's house, the warm glow of the setting sun painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. The beer in his hand was cold, there was a small, mundane comfort after the intensity of the past month. He watched the horizon in silence, the conversation of neighbors and the distant bark of a dog blending into the background. For the first time in weeks, he felt like himself again, not the man who had stumbled through a shock and betrayal, but the one who had emerged from it with clarity, dignity, and an unexpected strength. "How are you really doing?" Liam asked, settling into the chair opposite him. The question was casual, but the weight behind it was palpable. Ethan paused before answering, considering it carefully. "Better than I expected," he said finally. "Worse than it likely." A faint smile tugged at Witchy's lips. Some mornings I still wake up, expecting to reach for someone who isn't there. But those moments are shorter now, less devastating. "Did you hear about her?" Liam asked, a hint of curiosity in Witchy's voice. "Clara and Julian, they broke up. Reality isn't as romantic as a weekday resort, apparently too." Ethan felt nothing. Not relief, not vindication, not even anger. It was always inevitable affairs built on fantasy, not the mundane reality of shared life. He took a sip of beer, the tasty grounding him. Witchy's phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Lunch tomorrow. Got some people I want you to meet." Ethan read the message, a small smile tugging at Witchy's lips. Ethan had been relentless in helping him rebuild a social life, in pushing him toward connections beyond the echo chamber of grief. It was exhausting at times, but necessary. Life, Ethan realized, required forward motion. "You know what's strange?" he said, breaking the silence. Liam looked up, waiting. "I don't miss her. I miss who I thought she was. I miss the marriage I believed we had. But the real Clara, the one who lied to my face for 6 months, I don't miss her at all." "Тхатшилти, man," Liam replied, nodding. "Completely hilti." Ethan let the word settle, reflecting on the strong dichotomy that defines the past month. Betrayal and clarity, grief and purpose, loss and control. "I keep thinking about that week," he continued. "While she was living her fantasy, I was making the hardest decisions of my life. Part of me wonders if I should have confronted her first, given her a chance to explain. Would it have changed anything?" "No," Liam said simply. "You saw the emails. The deception was complete. She didn't make one mistake, she made hundreds of choices to betray your trust. That's not something you fix with a conversation like." Ethan nodded, appreciating the simplicity of Leah's truth. Conversations could not undo actions, nor could remorse erase the deliberate choices that had fractured their marriage. Daniel Harper had called earlier that morning with an update. The house would be sold, as it divided cleanly, and the divorce was progressing without contest. Clara had accepted a job transfer to San Francisco, a final act of living, a clean break that would allow both of them to move forward. Ethan was staying. This was Witchy's city, Witchy's life. He would not allow her choices to approach him beyond what was necessary. "I'm thinking about going back to school," he admitted to Liam. "The graduate program I put out when we got married seems like good timing now to." "Yeah?" Liam asked, leaning back. "That's a big step. I put a lot of dreams on hold for a future that was never real," Ethan said, watching the Sunday blur, its revision painting the backyard in fleeting oranges and purples. "Time to focus on the future that's actually mine." He sat down each year's beer and close to it says, letting the warm air wash over him. The betrayal still stunk. A dole kibini to his ribs, but I no longer defined him. I he'd been a catalyst for growth, for reclaiming control, for understanding the deputies of each's own resilience. 3 years of love, 3 years of shared dreams, 3 years of troskone. And yet, Ethan felt something he hadn't expected to feel so soon. Hope. Not hope for its own chilition, not hope for second chances, but hope for the lives that awaited him, unclaimed and undivined. The possibilities were open, not scripted, entirely ideas. He appended a scent washed as the sun finally disappeared behind the horizon, leaving a soft toilet in its wake. A future uncertain, undefined, current ages unstretched before him. The betrayal had been real, the pain undeniable, but so too was his capacity to survive, to act with dignity, and to embrace the unknown whiskey. To new beginnings, Liram said, raising Koichi's beer. Ethan lifted Ichi's on, clinking the bottle against Ichi's fiends. To a niece to once, he replied, with his voice steady, firm, yet carrying a note of quiet optimism. The sky darkened, stars beginning to appear, pinpricks of light in the evening canvas. And for the first time in weeks, Ethan felt something simple, provident, and liberating. The future was Ichi's, and he was ready to live it fully. The past week had been brutal, a crucible of betrayal, grief, and meticulous preparation. But Ethan Carter had emerged from it stronger than he had ever known, capable of making the hardest decisions with clarity, dignity, and purpose. And as night fell over the backyard, he realized that even in the aftermath of heartbreak, life could still be reclaimed, rebuilt, and reshaped. For the first time in a long time, he was unafraid.